Hi, it's Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. This is the first week that my kids have gone back to school, and it is in an online stay-at-home format. Remember the first time, which wasn't so long ago it seems, the first time we went into this experience where we're staying at home and learning in this distant education thing, there was a reaction to it. There was this hesitation, there was a nervousness, there was I'm not sure what I'm going to do, a little bit of frustration because I want to be with my friends, that kind of thing. But this time as we're going into this new stay at home, do school online virtually, there was nothing kind of reaction. It was a humdrum. It was a more of the same. There was an unhappy resignation, as though this is our lot in life, and it was so very sad. Talking to my friends is a fairly similar experience that they're having. I'm hearing 5 things as I talk to people. Emotionally speaking, I'm hearing that people are sad. Socially speaking, I'm hearing that we're lonely. Even the introverts right now are getting lonely. Physically speaking, I'm hearing my friends anyway saying that our cardio is on the decline, and we're all guilty of this COVID-19 20 thing where we're gaining 20 pounds over COVID-19. Mentally speaking, our thoughts are getting kind of dark and cloudy, and it's hard to break out of that. And spiritually speaking, we are all over the map. Some people are loving this pause. It's like a retreat. It's like an oasis where it's a time to reconnect with God, and we're doing very healthy. Other people, because socialization was part of their spiritual experience, they're having a negative time right now because they're missing all of the people they used to connect with, and they're missing doing communion together. So that's where my head's at right now, and I want to offer some help in this video. Before I move on, let me ask you, if you're watching with someone, how do you feel about taking a moment and pausing the video to share about these 5 feelings? How's your emotions? How's your social life? How's your physical well-being? How's your thoughts? How's your spiritual life? Or very simply, how are you doing emotionally, socially, mentally, physically, and spiritually? If you're up to it, pause and share one or all of these things with whoever it is you're watching with. I am not yet a registered psychotherapist, but I am on my way. Right now, I'm a student practitioner and I'm also a pastor. So for this video, what I would like to do, I'd like to connect those 2 vocations and look at Psalm 35, because I think that I have some help that I can offer here. And I may also be able to help you come up with a plan that if you need to get healthier in one or all of those 5 areas, then perhaps this video can be helpful for you. Psalm chapter 30, verse 5. Weeping may last through the night, but joy comes with the morning. Hey kids, keep your eyes in the background for all the stuff that's hidden back there, and also please remember to watch this week's episode of Connect HQ. What I'm going to do through this video is I'm going to merge, me being a pastor and me being an almost psychotherapist, a student practitioner. I'm going to throw in just a little bit of solution-focused therapy in here, just a little bit, to try to get us back on track and moving towards being healthier again. In Psalm 30, here's what we see the writer writing about God. God refuses to let enemies triumph over the writers. He restores the writer's health. He brings the writer up. He keeps the writer from falling. We also see the writer specifically mentioning things about God. His favor lasts a lifetime, and he turns mourning into dancing. This is a good news psalm. We don't know much about the context that it was written into, but we can clearly see, I think we can clearly see, how well it fits into our context today. How are people doing? COVID looks like it's an enemy trying to triumph over us. Physical health is on decline because people aren't getting out as much. Moods are declining. Thoughts are causing us to fail. Those are all in direct correlation with what the verses in this psalm mention. And what do we want? We want more vaccines. We want less restrictions. We want more favor. For this dark moment in world history, we want it to end. We want to stop mourning and we want to start dancing. So as I see it, this psalm is a really good fit for today, and it could have been written in a day like today. So let's look at verse 5 as a good summary for all of this psalm and our lot in life today, and see what hope the psalm can give us and what plan we may come up with to get a little healthier in at least one of those 5 areas. First of all, let me ask this. What are you sad about? The text says, weeping may last through the night. Now, the text uses the word weeping, and this is obvious. It's sadness, depression, despair, it's loss. It's everything that brings us really, really low. So I'm wondering what's doing this for you to you? What's your experiences bringing you down? Now, I'll give you an example for me, and then I'm going to ask you to actually make your own list, okay? Of the 5 areas, socially, I'm sad about the lack of physical social interaction. So I'm going to call this, I feel socially starved. Physically speaking, I'm feeling the lack of cardio and the weight gain. So I'm going to call this poor cardio and poor eating. Mentally speaking, I think I'm good. I've been in school, I've been engaged in for community, I'm starting a new role as student practitioner, so I think I'm good here. Emotionally, I think I'm sad. Being locked in all the time, away from people, that is not good for me because I'm a pretty extreme extrovert. So I'm going to call this underwhelmed. Spiritually speaking, I think I'm good. I'm doing my devotions, I'm engaged in for community. However, I really miss that physical space where we're singing together, doing communion together. That's a big part of the deal that I'm missing, but spiritually speaking, I think I'm doing pretty good. So here's my sad list, and I'm going to ask you to make your own in just a moment. I feel socially starved, poor cardio, poor eating, and underwhelmed. Those are the 4 things that I can add to my list. What is on your list? It's so important for you to be able to come up with your own list and put names to what it is you're experiencing, just like I did. What names would you give to the sad parts of what you're experiencing right now? The psalmist here, unfortunately, gets a pass. You and I don't get a pass on this. The writer knows why they're sad. They've likely got something specific in mind. There's a few details in the psalm that might give us a clue as to why that is. We can't go back to the writer and say, hey, make a list. But you and I can make a list. And making a list of everything that's making you sad right now is so important for what we're about to do to try to get a little bit healthier. Once you've made your list about everything that's making you sad right now, all of the weeping stuff of this moment, let's move on. What are you looking forward to? The text says, but joy comes with the morning. I really love the hope here, and I want it to. The writer of this psalm is writing in retrospect. Hindsight is 2020. They've already been through this moment, and now they're writing to us to give us some kind of encouragement. While the psalmist is writing in hindsight, we're not being reminded about what God can do as much as we're being reminded about who God is. Joy comes in the morning because that's who God is. He's the one calling us closer to himself. He's the healer. He's the rescuer. He's the source of all that we need. Does he do really great things? Yeah, he really does. But it's more because that's who he is. He is really, really great. And he does great things because he is great. So this joy that comes in the morning that I want, it comes from God because God is good. So my question to you is, what are you looking forward to? What is joy for you? I'm going to ask you to make another list. And so I'm going to start as an example to prep you for your own. Joy for me would be something like walking through a crowded mall, bumping into strangers who are pressing all around me. And maybe as I bump into somebody, I'd say, yo, sorry about that, you good? And hear somebody else say, you good? Something like that, right? Just getting lost in the crowd. It's having a barbecue outside the front of my house, just at the edge of my driveway, inviting any neighbor that wants to come by, and we're just kind of relax together and lounge together. It's board gaming in my basement. That would be great again. Or playing darts in my basement. That'd be great again. It's going to coffee and burgers with my neighbors and my friends and stuff, and just inside in the eating area, inside the restaurant. That'd be so good. I'm missing one of my friends used to call them burger prayers because we used to go out once a week or so and just have burgers and just talk about stuff. It was awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, okay? Because I can dream and dream and dream, and I hope that you can too. I can dream about what can bring me joy pretty easily. For me, that's lots of social activity in those dreams and stuff being done outside of the house because I'm working inside my home all the time. What's on your list? I'm going to ask you to make your list. Like, honestly, take a moment to write some of your dream list down. This is important for what we're going to do in the third part here. It feels really, really good, by the way, to get this out. It feels really, really good to dream. Just dream. Don't fret about how you're going to make it happen. Actually, don't think at all about how this is going to happen. Just dream. Focus on your joy. Joy comes in the morning. Well, what is joy for you? How are you going to recognize it? If a miracle were to happen tonight and you woke up tomorrow morning and everything is fine, what does that look like? How are you going to recognize that this is joy, right? So write that list down. What is joy for you? And then once you do that, let's move to the third point. What can you do right now? Again, I want to still go back to that same phrase, joy comes with the morning. We talked about joy. I want to talk about the morning now. I want to look ahead to the morning. Every day, we're given a new chance at this. We can't hit the big reset, but we can hit the small resets, and we can do small changes to make things better. So here's where the work comes in to help us get healthier. I'm going to borrow on a technique from solution focused therapy. I'm going to ask you an odd question. I want you to take your list of problems, like me, for example, it's social starvation. Then think about your experience in the pandemic so far and try to think up a time when it wasn't a problem. So for me, it's social starvation. And when social starvation wasn't a problem for me during this pandemic, I'm looking for exceptions, and I've already just experienced an exception. Recently, I was connecting in a roundtable discussion, prepping for an annual business meeting, and we broke out into the breakout groups on Zoom, and then we dropped the agenda and we just started riffing. We just started making fun of each other. We just started saying stuff off the cuff. We just started blurting, and it just became a really social, fun time. And we got rid of the structure and we just socially connected. And so that's an exception. I'm feeling socially starved, but there was an exception there. It's like, whoa, I really feel socially engaged right now. That's an exception. Let me give you some examples because I'm going to ask you to look for your own exceptions. So my sad list was socially starved, poor cardio, poor eating, underwhelmed. Here are my exceptions. I felt socially satisfied during that last meeting. I felt better around my cardio while I was walking every day. That's an exception. I didn't feel underwhelmed while I was learning something new at school or while I'm learning something new as I'm starting this new placement. And I felt like I haven't been eating poorly when I've stuck with whole foods and no fake foods, and I've increased my water intake. Okay, so those are the exceptions when I haven't felt so bad. So I've got exceptions. So I'm going to ask you to take a hard look at your time during this pandemic. Look at your problem list, look at your joy list, and ask yourself, when was this problem not a problem during this whole time of the pandemic? Look for those exceptions, capture them, and write them down somewhere, because I'm going to borrow a tenet from SFT. And the tenet is do more of what works. What we're in, it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. You know, the vaccines are coming, and I'm thankful that the vaccines are coming, but it looks like we're in this for a long time to come. I'm sorry for your experience. I'm sorry for my experience. This really sucks. However, we can likely already find exceptions when our problems weren't problems during the pandemic. If we do more of that, we're going to experience more of the joy that comes in the morning. So for me, I'll have more joy and less sadness if I walk regularly, if I do more Zoom meetings that allow a space with no agenda and just hang out, if I eat whole foods and drink more water, and if I focus on learning new things. That's for me. What is it for you? Now, you may find your exceptions easier if you create your joy list first. You're going to find your joy list easier and more effective if you create your sad list first. And very importantly, your tomorrow will start to be better as you focus more on what is working rather than what is not working. Okay, let's get biblical again. Let's move out of SFT for a second. Let's get biblical for one moment. Is this it? Is this really what the psalm means? Does the psalm really instruct us to go back and look for those exceptions when the problem wasn't the problem and then start doing more of what works? Well, in part, yes. Not in full, but in part, yes. And here's what I mean. God is granting us grace every single day. He's with us all the time. We are generally so focused on what our problems are without actually ever naming them that our focus drags us down and we miss seeing what God is doing moment by moment right beside us. So when we pay more attention to those exceptions, what we see are circumstantial signs. And that's not my phrase. That's Nicky Gumbel's phrase that he uses in Alpha. God shows up in our circumstances. We can be so consumed by everything that's wrong that we completely miss what God is doing right here and right now beside us every single moment, moment by moment. We miss his presence. We miss that he's right beside us because we're not attempting to look at him or for him or to him. We're just focused on what is wrong. We can't take our eyes off what is wrong. It's human nature to see the bad rather than the good. That's true. But don't beat yourself up about it. Just own it. Let's move forward differently. So in part, yes, This is totally what is meant. Discover what God is doing in your moment-by-moment circumstance. Notice those exceptions and start pursuing more of those moments where God is showing up and giving you joy. Forcing your eyes off of what's negative and forcing your attention onto what God is doing positively right here and right now. And so that's partly a yes, and it's also partly a no. God's got something much bigger in mind. God's got something much greater in mind. Keep following him, keep learning from him, keep engaging with your Bible, keep praying, keep connecting as you can with other people who also want to connect with God, so you can connect with each other as you're connecting with God. One day God is going to fix all of this. You may have a miracle on your horizon. You'll definitely have your miracle when Jesus is coming back. But you know what? Some of these problems that we have right now in the pandemic, we needed a miracle before the pandemic. Before the pandemic happened, we still were only noticing the negative far more than we were ever noticing the positive. So this is a great moment for us to kick back and say, hey, now wait a minute. There are exceptions. God is showing up in the middle of this. God is giving us these little gifts in the middle of something that's so horrible. So let's take a moment and reflect on those and be thankful for those and pursue more of those moments. So let's sum this up. The writer of this psalm is using hindsight to tell us something about God and something about ourselves. God wants you to experience joy. He gives you a fresh start every day to make that happen. Here's what can help. Write down what makes you sad and put a name to them. Write down what would make you happy. Look for exceptions that are happening right now where you saw those happy moments within the sad time, and then do more of that, recognizing that God put those happy moments and those exceptions there for you to find joy. Are you feeling really down? Do you need a hand with this? Well, guess what? I'm a student practitioner now, under supervision, working out of a private practice, counseling online. Maybe it would help you to reach out and connect with a guy like me. Also, For Community is online. We're a small group of people. None of us have it all together, but man, we're making a go of it, cheering each other on, and there may be room for you too. Maybe this might be your thing also. Okay, that's it from me to you for now. Like, share, subscribe, that'd be awesome. For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.